A massive stone block sits before you, cut with impossible precision by hands we are told held only simple tools. This single contradiction unravels our entire story of human progress. We are exploring 15 impossible megaliths that defy ancient tool capabilities, a journey that will permanently change how you see history. You will discover why structures across the globe, from earthquake-proof walls in Peru to machined granite in Egypt, remain unsolved puzzles for modern science. How did cultures without hard metal or powered machinery carve, move, and lift stones heavier than our heaviest cranes can handle? What forgotten knowledge allowed them to achieve a level of craftsmanship we would struggle to match even today? When you look at the grand narrative of human achievement, how much of it do you think we might have gotten wrong? The sheer scale of the challenge begins with the materials themselves. We are not talking about stacking rough field stones. A true megalithic structure uses blocks that can weigh anywhere from 10 tons to well over 1,000 tons. To put that in perspective, the largest mobile crane in the world today would strain to lift many of these ancient stones. Yet, these colossal weights are only half the story. The other half is a precision that borders on the obsessive. We find joints between multi-ton blocks so tight that a razor blade cannot slip between them. We see corners cut at perfect 90-degree angles across lengths of 20 feet or more, and surfaces polished to a mirror-like finish on granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. This is the core of the enigma. The official historical narrative provides these cultures with a toolkit of copper saws, stone pounders, wooden sledges, and hemp ropes. But try using a copper chisel on granite. You will not make a cut, you will blunt the chisel. Try pounding granite with a stone hammer to shape it. You will create a pile of dust and rubble, not a smooth, flat plane with sharp, defined edges. The disconnect is visceral. It is the difference between using a butter knife to carve an engine block and using a precision laser. One method is theoretically possible with immense time and effort, but the result would be crude. The other method produces a masterpiece of geometry and balance. This fundamental mismatch between assumed means and actual ends is what pulls us into the mystery. It forces a single, compelling question. If the tools we think they had were so clearly inadequate, then what were they really using? Our journey to find answers starts with a place where the stone itself seems to defy the very laws of physics. High in the Bolivian Andes, a shattered landscape of stone holds secrets that whisper of a forgotten science. This is Puma Punku, part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, and to walk among its ruins is to witness a paradox. From a distance, it looks like the aftermath of a cataclysm, a field of colossal blocks scattered as if by a giant's hand, but come closer, kneel down. Run your fingers along the edge of one of these andesite slabs. What you feel is not the rough, irregular texture of hammered stone. It is a surface of impossible smoothness, a flat plane that feels as if it rolled off a factory floor. This is the first and most visceral clue that Puma Punku operates on a different set of rules. The stone here, andesite, is a volcanic rock akin to granite in its hardness. Working it requires tools tougher than itself. Yet, the artisans of Puma Punku did not just work it, they mastered it with a precision that stuns modern engineers. Look at the famous H-shaped blocks. These are not simple bricks. They are interlocking components, each with crisp, perfect right angles and recessed channels cut with a consistency that suggests the use of templates or guides. The edges are sharp, the corners exact, and the surfaces are flawlessly flat across spans longer than a person is tall. Then there are the even more perplexing details, the dovetail slots and precise notches cut into the stone. These are not decorative. They are functional, architectural features designed to lock multi-ton blocks together without mortar, to resist seismic shifts in one of the most geologically active regions on Earth. Creating such features freehand with stone hammers is not just difficult, it is geometrically improbable. You cannot pound a perfect, recessed square into granite with a round rock. You cannot achieve a mirror finish by bashing the surface with a harder stone. The evidence points toward a different process altogether, one involving cutting, grinding, and drilling. Modern experiments show that replicating this precision in andesite would require diamond-tipped saws or advanced abrasive techniques. So what does this mean for our understanding of the people who built here? The conventional timeline offers them tools of stone and copper, but the stone itself tells a different story, one of measured drafts, of advanced geometric understanding, and of a machining capability that seems to belong to another age entirely. Each perfect cut at Puma Punku is a quiet question etched in rock, asking us how much we have underestimated the technological dreams of the ancient world. High above the ancient city of Cusco, a fortress wall curves against the sky in a staggering zigzag pattern. This is Sacsayhuamán, and its scale is breathtaking from a distance. Yet its true mystery only becomes apparent when you stand close enough to touch the stone. The limestone blocks are monumental, many weighing well over 100 tons, each one a unique, irregular polygon. They lock together in a three-dimensional stone puzzle of astonishing complexity, and they do it all without a single drop of mortar. The fit is so flawless, so impossibly precise, that for centuries people have said not even a piece of paper can slip into the seams. This is not an exaggeration, the joints are that tight. Think about what this means from a builder's perspective. You are not simply stacking rectangular bricks. You are working with gigantic, oddly shaped stones, each with multiple faces and angles. Your task is to carve the back of one stone to perfectly mirror the intricate, curved front of its neighbor, and you have to do this for thousands of blocks across a wall that snakes up and down a hillside. The precision required is microscopic. A single error of a few millimeters in one block would throw off the entire alignment for rows above and below it. So how was it done? The conventional explanation points to patient abrasion. The idea is that workers would rub a block against its neighbor using sand and water, grinding the surfaces down until they matched. In theory, this could work, but in practice on this scale, with stones of this size and hardness, the theory begins to fray. The process would be unbelievably slow, requiring thousands of workers to move a single block back and forth for years. More puzzling are the complex concave and convex surfaces found on some stones, shapes that are incredibly difficult to create through simple grinding. This has led to other, more speculative ideas. Some researchers point to local plant extracts, suggesting the Inca may have possessed a knowledge of geopolymers or a chemical agent that could temporarily soften the surface of the stone, allowing it to be molded or shaped more easily before it rehardened. While controversial, such theories emerge from a simple, observable fact. The craftsmanship at Sacsayhuamán displays a profound, intuitive understanding of stone's behavior, an art of construction that seems to transcend the tool kit we traditionally assign to its builders. The walls were designed to be earthquake-proof, their interlocking design allowing them to sway and settle without collapsing. In this, they succeeded magnificently, surviving centuries of tremors that leveled later Spanish constructions. The fortress is more than a wall, it is a conversation with the landscape, a demonstration of a forgotten art where stone was not just cut, but persuaded to become one seamless, living structure. But to find the single greatest feat of stone moving in the ancient world, we must travel from the mountains of Peru to the sun-baked plains of Lebanon. Here, in the Bekaa Valley, lies the foundation of the Roman temple of Jupiter at Baalbek, and it is not the graceful columns above that hold the deepest mystery, but what lies beneath them. The temple platform is built upon 3 colossal limestone blocks known as the Trilithon. Each one is a staggering 80 feet long, 15 feet high, 10 feet thick, and weighs approximately 800 tons. To visualize that, imagine a fully loaded jumbo jet. Now imagine 3 of them carved from solid rock and then perfectly fitted together without modern machinery. This alone defies belief, yet the true magnitude of the puzzle is found a mile away in the ancient quarry. There lies the stone of the pregnant woman, a single, partially cut block of limestone. It is even larger than the Trilithon stones, estimated to weigh over 1,000 tons. It was cut from the bedrock, but for reasons lost to time, it was never moved. Its very existence is a statement, a permanent question mark left in stone. It proves the builders had the confidence to quarry a block of that unimaginable mass, but it also highlights the insane challenge they faced. How do you move a 1,000-ton stone? Even today, moving the 800-ton Trilithon blocks would be a monumental engineering project requiring specialized heavy lift transporters, reinforced roads, and meticulous planning. The Romans are credited with building the temple above, but the platform itself is far older, its origins shrouded in prehistory. The logistical problem is breathtaking. The quarry sits nearly a mile from the temple site with a gentle but significant incline. The standard explanation involves thousands of laborers, wooden rollers, and a system of ropes and pulleys. But the physics strain under the weight. Wooden rollers would likely splinter under 800 tons. The ground pressure would be immense, requiring a perfectly prepared and reinforced roadbed the entire way. And then comes the final, most perplexing act, the lift. These blocks are not just lying on the ground. They are raised over 20 feet in the air to form the second layer of the platform, fitted together with joints so precise they required no mortar. Lifting a single 800-ton block to that height with primitive cranes or ramps is a problem modern engineers still debate. The precision alongside the sheer mass suggests a lost system, a harmony of knowledge that understood leverage, counterweights, and friction in ways we have yet to fully rediscover. The Trilithon does not just ask how it was done, it asks us to reconsider the very ceiling of what ancient societies believed was possible. The journey from ancient Peru and Lebanon now brings us to a humid corner of 20th century Florida, to a mystery that proves these questions are not confined to the distant past. Here stands the Coral Castle, a sprawling complex of massive coral rock sculptures and structures, all the work of one man. Edward Leedskalnin was a Latvian immigrant, standing just 5 feet tall and weighing barely 100 pounds. Yet, between the 1920s and the 1950s, he single-handedly quarried, carved, and positioned over 1,000 tons of oolitic limestone, with individual blocks weighing up to 30 tons. He did this mostly alone, often working at night by lantern light, and he did it with tools that appeared deceptively simple, little more than old car parts, chains, and tripods. When asked how he managed such a feat, he would only offer a cryptic smile and say he understood the secrets of the pyramids. The physical evidence he left behind is as baffling as any ancient site. Consider the famous 9-ton stone gate. It was carved as a perfect, symmetrical square, balanced on a metal rod so precisely that for decades a child could push it open with a single finger. It rotated without friction, a feat of engineering that stumped experts until the mechanism finally seized in the 1980s. Throughout the complex, stones are aligned with astronomical precision, pointing to the North Star or marking the solstices. The central mystery is not just the weight, but the method. How did one slight man, without modern machinery or visible assistance, move blocks heavier than those at Stonehenge? Leedskalnin himself spoke of understanding the laws of weight and leverage, and he wrote pamphlets on magnetic currents, suggesting he believed he had tapped into a fundamental property of matter, perhaps a form of anti-gravity or magnetic levitation. Skeptics propose he used clever but conventional techniques like block and tackle, but they struggle to explain how he managed the work completely alone, in secret, and with such astonishing precision. The Coral Castle stands as a powerful bridge in our story. It is a modern monument that echoes ancient problems, a reminder that the secrets of megalithic construction may not be entirely lost to time, but merely waiting in plain sight, understood by a solitary individual who took his greatest secrets with him. Deep beneath the shifting sands of Abydos, a structure lies in wait that seems to defy the very timeline of Egyptian history. This is the Osireion, a sunken, water-filled complex discovered behind the temple of Seti I. On the surface, it is attributed to this New Kingdom pharaoh, a memorial of the god Osiris, but step down into its flooded central hall, and the story written in stone begins to change. The architecture here does not whisper, it shouts a different origin. Instead of the refined, decorated sandstone blocks of Seti's known temples, you are surrounded by stark, monumental granite. The pillars are colossal, rough-hewn monoliths supporting lintels that each weigh over 100 tons. The style is not the elegant artistry of the New Kingdom, but something far more primal and powerful, reminiscent of the Cyclopean masonry at sites like the Valley Temple at Giza, a style scholars often associate with much older epochs. It feels like walking into the foundation of the world, a space built by different hands for a different purpose, and then buried by the sands of time. The most telling clues, however, are not in the grand scale, but in the tiny, mechanical details left behind, scattered on the granite surfaces, particularly on the massive stone boxes within the complex, are drill holes. These are not rough, chiseled depressions. They are clean, circular borings, and inside them, preserved for millennia, are the unmistakable marks of a tube drill. The grooves spiraling down the sides of these holes are perfectly consistent, evenly spaced, and cut deep into the granite. This pattern is a fossilized signature of a specific technology. To create such a mark requires a hollow drill bit, likely made of copper or bronze, fed with an abrasive slurry like quartz sand, and then spun under immense, steady pressure at a high rate of speed. The force and precision needed to achieve these clean, deep spirals in one of the hardest stones on Earth is extraordinary. It speaks of a process more akin to modern core drilling than to the patient, manual twisting we typically imagine. This presents a profound contradiction. Why would the builders of the Osireion, supposedly working in the same era as the beautifully carved reliefs of Seti's temple next door, choose this brutally massive, undecorated style? And more importantly, how did they possess drilling technology that appears so advanced, so industrial in its application, while leaving no other evidence of such tools elsewhere in their known archaeological record? The most compelling theory is that the Osireion is not a New Kingdom construction at all, but a relic. It may be a surviving fragment of a far older, technologically sophisticated civilization, a foundation from a forgotten age that was discovered, perhaps revered, and then incorporated into the sacred landscape by later Egyptians who no longer understood how it was built. The water that now fills its chambers, often thought to represent the primordial waters of creation, may also be the very thing that preserved these telltale tool marks, sealing them away until we were ready to see the impossible written in stone. The silent, watchful faces of Easter Island have become a global symbol of mystery. These Moai are far more than just heads. They are full-bodied statues, buried up to their shoulders, carved from the island's unique volcanic tuff. This stone is not as hard as granite, but it is still formidable, and the sheer volume of work is staggering. Hundreds of these figures, averaging 13 feet tall and weighing 14 tons, were carved from the slopes of the Raraku quarry. Inside that quarry lie the most telling clues, the unfinished giants. Some of these partially carved colossi are still attached to the bedrock, and they reveal a process that seems almost industrial in scale. One unfinished Moai, nicknamed El Gigant, is estimated to weigh 80 tons, a testament to the ambition that drove this society. The traditional toolkit assigned to the Rapa Nui people consists of simple hand picks made of hard basalt stone. Using these to carve detailed facial features, elongated ears, and intricate hands resting across stomachs on 80 tons of rock is a task that would consume lifetimes. Yet the greater puzzle is not just the carving but the journey. These statues were not meant to stay in the quarry. They were transported, some over 10 miles across the island's rugged, hilly terrain, to be erected on massive stone platforms called ahu along the coast. How do you move a 14-ton stone giant? The most popular modern theory suggests the statues were walked. In this method, teams would rock the Moai from side to side using ropes, pivoting it forward in a shuffling motion. Experimental archaeology has shown this is physically possible with smaller replicas, but the risks are immense. The statues, with their high center of gravity and heavy brows, are prone to catastrophic tipping. Even a slight miscalculation could shatter decades of work against the rocky ground. This leads to other, perhaps more plausible theories involving a system of wooden sledges and log rollers on prepared roads. Recent studies have even found evidence of lubricated tracks, but here the mystery deepens into a profound societal question. Easter Island is remote, its resources famously limited. The same trees needed for rollers and sledges are believed to have been depleted over time. So what incredible cultural imperative, what unifying belief, could drive a people to dedicate generations to such an all-consuming task? The Moai are not mere monuments, they are the physical manifestation of an ancestor cult believed to channel sacred power. In that light, the act of carving and moving them was not just engineering, it was an act of spiritual survival. The silent faces gazing inland were meant to watch over the living, a permanent bridge to the past that justified any hardship. Their creation may have been the very thing that held the society together, even as the physical cost of that unity reshaped the island itself. While the Moai represent a society pushing its limits, a discovery in southeastern Turkey suggests the very origins of civilization itself may be written in stone. Göbekli Tepe is not merely an ancient site, it is a historical earthquake. Here, massive T-shaped pillars of limestone, some reaching 18 feet tall and weighing 20 tons, stand in deliberate circles. The astonishing fact is their age. These stones were quarried, carved, and erected around 11,500 years ago. This predates Stonehenge by over 6,000 years. It was built a staggering 6 millennia before the Great Pyramid of Giza, and according to traditional archaeology, the people who built it should not have been capable of such a feat. They were hunter-gatherers, nomadic bands following wild herds. They had no agriculture to provide surplus food, no permanent settlements to organize labor, and certainly no metal tools. Yet the evidence is undeniable. The pillars are not crude monoliths, they are sophisticated works of art, carved with intricate, high-relief depictions of foxes, boars, cranes, and scorpions, alongside mysterious abstract symbols. This required far more than brute strength. It demanded advanced planning, a shared symbolic language, and generations of skilled artisans passing down their craft. So how did they do it? The logistics are mind-bending. Quarrying these multi-ton pillars from the nearby bedrock with flint tools would be a monumental task. Transporting them, even just a few hundred meters across rough terrain, would require coordinated labor on a scale we never associated with pre-agricultural peoples. And then erecting them into perfect circles speaks of a sophisticated understanding of engineering and astronomy, as some pillars appear aligned with celestial events. This turns our traditional story of human progress completely on its head. For over a century, we believed a specific sequence was inevitable. First, humans mastered agriculture. This created a food surplus. That surplus allowed people to settle in towns. With settled life came specialization, hierarchy, and complex society. Only then, with this stable foundation, could humanity afford the luxury of building monumental temples. Göbekli Tepe flips this script. Here, it seems the temple came first. The burning desire to build a sacred place, to gather for ritual and meaning, may have been the catalyst that forced hunter-gatherers to innovate. To feed the hundreds of workers needed for construction, they might have begun cultivating wild grains nearby, sparking the very dawn of agriculture. To house the laborers and artisans, the first permanent settlements might have emerged. In this light, civilization did not create religion. It may have been the other way around. The need to build something greater than themselves, to reach for the divine, could have been the original spark that taught humanity how to organize, plan, and ultimately change the world. Göbekli Tepe is not just a collection of old stones. It is a profound question mark at the very beginning of our story, asking us if we have misunderstood the deepest motivations that make us human. Beneath the clear, blue waters off the coast of Japan, a different kind of mystery waits in the silence. The Yonaguni Monument is a sprawling sandstone formation discovered in the 1980s, resting on the seafloor at depths reaching 100 feet. From the first moment divers documented its geometric shapes, a fierce debate was born. Are we looking at the incredible handiwork of nature or the sunken ruins of a civilization forgotten by time? The site is massive, a series of monolithic platforms that appear to descend like giant steps or terraces. Its most striking features are the sharp, 90-degree angles between what look like walls and the flat, level surfaces that resemble paved floors. There are straight, parallel channels and even formations that look like carved pillars and a triangular archway. To the untrained eye, it feels unmistakably architectural, like the remains of a vast plaza or a ceremonial center. Proponents of the artificial theory point to these precise geometries as evidence. They argue that nature, while capable of creating straight lines through crystal fractures or columnar basalt, rarely produces such a concentrated collection of perpendicular angles and flat planes in a single, interconnected structure. They highlight specific spots where the rock appears to show tool marks, or where what look like carved steps are evenly spaced. If human hands did shape this stone, the implications are staggering. The monument now lies submerged, meaning it must have been built when sea levels were dramatically lower. That places its construction potentially at the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago, a timeline that would place it in the same remote epoch as Göbekli Tepe. It suggests the possibility of a sophisticated coastal culture in prehistoric Japan, a civilization advanced enough to undertake monumental stonework, only to have its legacy slowly claimed by the rising seas. Geologists, however, offer a compelling natural explanation. The region's sandstone is known to fracture along straight plains due to tectonic stresses. The powerful underwater currents around Yonaguni can erode the stone along these natural fault lines, potentially creating flat surfaces and sharp angles. They demonstrate how the same processes can create similar, though smaller, formations elsewhere. The debate ultimately hinges on a fundamental question of pattern recognition. When we see straight lines and right angles, our minds instinctively see design, the signature of an intelligent maker. But nature is also a brilliant, if chaotic, sculptor. The truth of Yonaguni may lie somewhere in between. Perhaps it began as a remarkable natural formation, a gift of geology. Could ancient people have then found it, recognized its awe-inspiring geometry, and enhanced it? They might have carved additional steps, smoothed certain surfaces, and transformed an already powerful natural site into a sacred space. This middle path is perhaps the most intriguing of all. It suggests a partnership between the human spirit and the earth, where our ancestors did not always seek to conquer the landscape, but to collaborate with it, to elevate its inherent majesty into something that spoke directly to the divine. Whether a masterpiece of nature, humanity, or both, the Yonaguni monument stands as a haunting reminder that our planet's greatest stories may not all be found on dry land, but are waiting in the quiet depths, holding their breath. Scattered across the lush river deltas of southern Costa Rica, the Dikwi spheres present a mystery of a different kind. Here, the challenge was not size or weight, but an obsession with perfect form. Hundreds of these stone spheres, carved from hard gabbro, limestone, and sandstone, lie partially buried in the earth or stand in enigmatic groupings. Their sizes range from that of a grapefruit to colossal orbs over 8 feet in diameter, weighing several tons. The most astonishing thing about them is not their existence, but their geometry. They are not merely round, they are near-perfect spheres with a surface smoothness and a symmetry that seems machined. This precision is what stops you cold. Creating a perfect sphere by hand without modern measuring tools is one of the most difficult challenges in all of craftsmanship. It requires a constant, three-dimensional check against an ideal form that exists only in the mind of the artisan. The people of the Dikwi's culture who created these spheres between 300 years before the Common Era and 300 years after are not credited with metal tools. So how did they achieve this? The leading theory involves a multi-stage process of incredible patience. First, a suitable boulder would be roughly shaped by pecking at it with other, harder stones. Then it would be ground down using sand and water, slowly wearing away the high points. Some researchers suggest the stone may have been alternately heated and cooled to help fracture and weaken the surface for working. But the final stage, the achievement of that flawless curve, remains almost mystical. It implies the use of measuring devices, perhaps string or wooden calipers, to constantly check the diameter from every possible angle. This was not brute force work. It was an exercise in meticulous mathematical artistry. The purpose of these spheres is an even deeper puzzle. Some were found arranged in alignments, leading to theories of astronomical observatories or celestial calendars. Others were placed in the plazas of important settlements or near the tombs of high-status individuals, suggesting a social or political meaning. They may have been symbols of power, celestial bodies, or markers of clan identity. Their very perfection might have been the point, a demonstration of a community's skill, patience, and connection to cosmic harmony. Unlike the towering walls of Sacsayhuamán or the colossal blocks of Baalbek, the spheres do not overwhelm with scale. They captivate with precision. They represent a stone-working tradition that valued abstract perfection over figurative representation, a silent language of geometry whose full meaning is lost to us. Each sphere is a world unto itself, a closed system of secrets, asking us not how they moved the earth, but how they captured the perfection of the heavens in stone. Descending into the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is like stepping inside a living stone. This is not a built structure, but a subtracted one, a vast, three-level labyrinth carved entirely from the solid limestone bedrock beneath the island of Malta. Its creation began over 5,000 years ago, a continuous project spanning many generations. To stand in its central chamber, the so-called Holy of Holies, is to feel the weight of that ambition pressing in from all sides. The walls curve upward into a domed ceiling, all smooth to a uniform finish. Archways connect to shadowy side chambers, and a series of lower levels descend deeper into the earth, each layer meticulously excavated. The sheer volume of stone removed, entirely by hand using simple tools of flint and deer antler, is almost incomprehensible. This was not quarrying blocks to build upward. It was the patient, irreversible act of carving downward and inward, creating sacred space by removing everything that was not the temple. Every surface, every corridor, every step was defined by what was taken away, a monumental act of reverse sculpture. The precision is what lingers with you. The walls are not rough-hewn. They are finished, often with a gentle curvature that feels organic and intentional. In one remarkable chamber, known as the Oracle Room, the architecture reveals a sophistication that transcends mere digging. This small, circular room possesses an acoustic phenomenon. A deep voice spoken into a specific niche resonates throughout the chamber with an eerie, amplified vibrato, a sound that seems to come from the stone itself. This was no accident. It suggests the builders possessed a profound, intuitive understanding of sound resonance, of how shape and space could transform the human voice into something otherworldly. Scholars believe this space may have been used for ritual or divination, where a hidden speaker could deliver messages that felt divine, emerging from the very heart of the earth. This fusion of spiritual purpose and acoustic engineering challenges the stark divide we often place between ancient ritual and ancient science. The Hypogeum represents a different kind of technological prowess, one of profound spatial planning, of generational dedication, and of a sensory wisdom that manipulated not just stone, but sound and perception to create an experience of the sacred. It asks us to expand our definition of technology beyond tools and toward an intimate, cultivated knowledge of the material world and its hidden properties. Across the windswept plains of Brittany, a forest of stone rises from the earth in silent, orderly rows. This is Carnac, where the scale of the megalithic ambition shifts from the single monument to the overwhelming multitude. Here, over 3,000 standing stones were placed, one after another, in parallel lines that stretch for miles across the landscape. They were erected around 4,500 years before the Common Era, making them contemporaries of far older sites like Göbekli Tepe, yet their statement is entirely different. This is not a single temple or tomb, but a vast, open-air composition written in granite. To stand at one end of the grand menhir alignment and look down its length is to feel a shiver of awe, not just at the stones themselves, but at the sheer, unwavering will it took to create them. Each menhir, some weighing dozens of tons, had to be quarried, transported, and erected. Now multiply that task by thousands. The logistical coordination required for such a project is almost beyond comprehension for a Neolithic society. We are talking about a community that likely numbered in the low thousands, all dedicated to a single generational vision. How did they feed the workers? How did they organize the labor without a written language? The most plausible methods involve systems of wooden rollers, earthen ramps, and vast networks of ropes made from plant fibers, all powered by human muscle. Experiments show that with enough people and careful coordination, moving a 20-ton stone is possible. But at Carnac, the challenge was repeating that feat not once or twice, but thousands of times over decades or even centuries. This points to a society of remarkable social cohesion and shared purpose. The construction itself may have been the ritual, an act that bound the community together through a common Herculean task. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider the arrangement. The rows are not random. Their alignments are precise, and many researchers believe they were carefully oriented to celestial events. Some lines point to the rising or setting sun at the solstices, while others may track the cycles of the moon. This suggests the builders were not just moving stone, they were mapping the heavens onto the earth, creating a permanent stone calendar that connected their world to the rhythms of the cosmos. The purpose remains elusive. Were they a sacred pathway for ceremonial processions, a territorial marker for different clans, a colossal astronomical observatory for priests to predict seasons? The most compelling answer may encompass all of these. Carnac represents the pinnacle of early collective human effort. It shows us that before empires, before written history, people could come together around a shared idea so powerful that it compelled them to transform their entire landscape. Each stone is a testament to patience, to cooperation, and to a deep desire to create something permanent that spoke to the stars. In its silent, sprawling order, Carnac asks us what we, as a society, would be willing to build together if we shared a single, unifying vision that spanned generations. The obsession with perfection in stone finds perhaps its most eloquent expression not in a sphere or a wall, but in a doorway. In the high-altitude ruins of Tiwanaku, the Gate of the Sun stands as a solitary, breathtaking page from a lost manuscript. Carved from a single, massive block of andesite weighing an estimated 10 tons, this iconic arch is not merely a piece of architecture. It is a densely coded message, a fusion of art, astronomy, and spiritual belief rendered with a precision that defies its supposed tools. The central figure, often called the staff god, dominates the lintel, radiating an aura of authority, with streams that may represent tears or rays of light flowing from its eyes. Surrounding this central deity are rows of winged attendants, each figure carved in intricate bas-relief, their lines sharp, their forms symmetrical and repeated with machine-like consistency across the entire surface. This is where the technical mystery deepens. Andesite is brutally hard. To achieve such fine, shallow carvings where the background is painstakingly cut away to leave the raised design requires extraordinary control. Using stone hammers or chisels of softer copper would be like trying to engrave glass with a butter knife. The slightest slip would shatter a delicate line or ruin a symmetrical pattern. The craftsmanship suggests the use of specialized tools, perhaps abrasive cords or drills fed with quartz sand, and a process of grinding and polishing that demanded not just strength, but the steady hand of a master engraver. This level of detail implies more than ritual significance. It speaks of a highly specialized class of artisans, individuals who spent lifetimes perfecting this stone writing, suggesting a culture with a complex social structure and a powerful need to communicate something permanent. And many researchers believe they understand the message. The gate is not just art, it is a calendar. The 48 figures in the surrounding rows, 32 with human faces and 16 with condor heads, are thought to be a sophisticated count, possibly tracking the cycles of Venus or marking the solstices and equinoxes. When the sun rises on specific days of the year, its light aligns with the gateway in dramatic ways, illuminating the central deity in a blaze of solar glory. This transforms the gate from a passive monument into an active instrument, a stone computer that harmonizes the earthly and the celestial. The Tiwanaku culture, thriving at an altitude where the sky feels vast and close, encoded their deepest understanding of time and the cosmos into this single portal. It stands as a testament to a world where science and spirituality were inseparable, where knowing the precise date of the solstice was as sacred as knowing the face of a god, both truths carved with equal reverence into a stone meant to last for eternity. Rising from the sun-scorched landscape of Sardinia, the Nuraghe stand like silent stone sentinels from a forgotten world. These are not simple piles of rock, but towering conical fortresses, each one a complex labyrinth of chambers, staircases, and corbelled domes, all built from massive blocks of dark basalt. Their age is staggering, with construction beginning around 1,800 years before the Common Era, deep in the Bronze Age. What makes them an architectural marvel is not just their age, but their ingenious stability. They were built entirely without mortar, relying solely on the careful placement of one irregular stone upon another to create structures that have defiantly stood for nearly 4,000 years. The principle at work is called corbelling. Instead of using a single lintel or arch to span a space, the builders would lay each successive layer of stones slightly inward, overhanging the layer below, until the opening at the top could be closed with a single capstone. This creates a domed ceiling, a technique that seems simple in theory, but is incredibly difficult in practice with multi-ton blocks. The slightest miscalculation in the angle or balance of any stone would cause the entire dome to collapse under its own immense weight. Yet the Nuraghe domes hold. This speaks to a profound, hands-on understanding of static equilibrium and load-bearing physics. knowledge gained not from written manuals, but from generations of trial, error, and passed down wisdom. The puzzle deepens when we consider the logistics. Each Nuraghe is built from thousands of basalt blocks, a volcanic stone both heavy and difficult to shape. The society that built them left no written records, no detailed blueprints that we have found. So how did they communicate such complex architectural plans? The answer likely lies in a highly specialized, guild-like tradition. Master builders would have held the knowledge in their minds and hands, training apprentices through direct demonstration. The construction itself would have been a massive communal effort, requiring a society organized enough to feed and coordinate laborers, quarry workers, and skilled masons for projects that could span decades. This suggests a culture with a strong central authority or a deeply shared communal identity, one where building these stone giants was central to their security, their spirituality, or their very sense of place. The Nuraghe are more than fortresses. They are the ultimate expression of achieving monumental complexity with elegantly simple means. They represent a dialogue between human intention and physical law, where the goal was not to conquer the stone, but to listen to it, to understand its weight and friction so completely that it could be persuaded to hold itself up forever. In their enduring silence, they ask us to reconsider what a supposedly primitive Bronze Age society was truly capable of imagining and building. High in the Peruvian Andes, the fortress of Ollantaytambo clings to a mountainside like a stone crown. Here, on a steep terrace known as the Temple Hill, sits a wall that stops every visitor in their tracks. It is composed of just 6 colossal blocks of a beautiful salmon-pink stone called rhyolite. Each one is a giant, standing over twice the height of a person and weighing more than 50 tons. They are fitted together with the now familiar, breathtaking precision, joints so tight they seem to merge into a single, seamless surface. Yet the true weight of this accomplishment is not measured in tons but in distance. To understand the impossibility, you must turn your gaze away from the wall, across the deep gorge of the sacred valley, to the mountain on the opposite side. That is the quarry. The stones for this wall were not hauled up the hill from below. They were brought down from that distant mountain across the roaring Urubamba River and then dragged up the steep slope to their current position. The journey is a straight line of about 4 miles, but it is a route of staggering difficulty, a vertical obstacle course that defies conventional explanation. How do you move a 50-ton block down a mountainside, across a fast-flowing river, and then up another mountainside? The standard Inca toolkit of ropes, logs, and manpower feels stretched to its absolute limit here. Some researchers propose an intricate system of earthen ramps, a zigzagging pathway of packed earth that would have been a construction project in itself, only to be dismantled after. Others look at the steep incline from the river to the temple site and wonder about the use of counterweights, a kind of ancient elevator system where descending heavy loads could help pull other stones upward. But the stones themselves offer quieter, more perplexing clues. The surfaces of the pink rhyolite are not just cut, they are often polished to a smooth, almost glossy finish. On some of the massive blocks scattered around the site, you can find strange, shallow grooves and notches that do not appear to be decorative. These could be points for levering or gripping, but their exact function remains a mystery. Even more intriguing are the blocks left along the presumed transport route, like permanent waypoints in an unfinished story. One enormous monolith lies at the bottom of the valley near the river, as if the builders simply could not get it across. Another rests partway up the path to the fortress, forever caught in mid-ascent. These abandoned giants are perhaps the most honest part of the site. They confess the immense struggle, the near-impossible challenge that even the master engineers of the Inca could not always overcome. Ollantaytambo represents a frontier. It showcases the Inca at the very peak of their logistical and engineering prowess, applying every technique of leverage, manpower, and terrain mastery they possessed. Yet the sheer audacity of the operation, the polished perfection of the result, and the silent testimony of the stones left behind all whisper of a project that pushed against the very edge of the possible. It blurs the line between what we confidently call traditional Inca methods and something that feels, in its ambition and execution, tantalizingly advanced. This fortress wall is not just a barrier, it is a question carved in pink stone, asking us how far a civilization will go to place its signature against the sky. The final piece of our puzzle is a monument that was never raised. In the granite quarries of Aswan, Egypt, a single stone tells the most honest story of all. This is the unfinished obelisk still lying in its bedrock, attached to the earth that birthed it. Had the ancient Egyptians completed their work, it would have been a true titan, a single shaft of red granite reaching 137 feet into the sky and weighing close to 1,200 tons. It would have dwarfed every other obelisk ever erected, but it was not to be. Deep cracks appeared in the stone, fatal flaws that forced the master builders to walk away, leaving their greatest ambition forever sleeping in the quarry. In its incompleteness, however, it offers us something rare, a fossilized moment of process. The tool marks are still there, a textbook of ancient methodology etched into the living rock. We can see exactly how they began. Workers carved deep, narrow trenches around the intended shape of the obelisk, just wide enough for a person to stand in. Then, along the base, they drilled a series of holes. The next step was a clever application of simple physics. They would have driven dry wooden wedges into these holes and then soaked them with water. As the wood expanded with tremendous force, it would create a controlled fracture, separating the obelisk from the bedrock below. From there, the back-breaking work of shaping and polishing would begin, all before the unimaginable task of moving it began. The scale of labor this represents is almost paralyzing to consider. This was not a project of years, but likely of decades, consuming the lives of generations of quarrymen, artisans, and overseers. And yet, for all their skill and organization, nature had the final word. The cracks that doomed the project reveal the immense, unforgiving pressure within the granite itself, a force the builders could not predict or control. This is the sobering counterpoint to our entire journey. While we marvel at the successes, the unfinished obelisk stands as a powerful testament to the razor's edge these cultures walked. It reminds us that every perfect wall at Sacsayhuamán, every colossal block at Baalbek, every precise sphere in Costa Rica was preceded by untold experiments, setbacks, and outright failures. This single stone encapsulates the full human drama of megalithic construction, the breathtaking ambition, the ingenious but fragile technology, and the ever-present shadow of ruin. It grounds our wonder in a profound respect for the cost. These were not miracles performed by gods or lost super-civilizations, but the hard-won achievements of real people, pushing the absolute limits of their material, their environment, and their own collective will. They dared to try, and in that trying, whether they succeeded or failed, they left behind a question that now challenges our own story of progress. What have we, with all our powered machinery and computational tools, forgotten about the dialogue between human intention and the ancient stone? These silent stones leave us not with a single answer, but with a profound and unifying question. Our journey across continents and millennia reveals a consistent, humbling theme, a thread connecting the impossible precision of Puma Punku to the staggering mass of Baalbek. In every case, our ancestors achieved architectural wonders that continue to perplex and inspire us, challenging the comforting narrative of a slow, steady climb from simple tools to complex machines. The evidence carved in granite and limestone suggests a different story, one punctuated by bursts of sophisticated knowledge or techniques that seem to appear, achieve the miraculous, and then fade from the common record. Mainstream archaeology provides essential frameworks, offering plausible theories of immense communal effort, ingenious simple machines, and generations of incredible patience. These explanations honor the intelligence and cooperation of ancient cultures, and in many cases they demonstrate how much could be accomplished with levers, ramps, and ropes. Yet for so many of these sites, the breathtaking precision alongside the colossal scale creates a persistent gap between the proposed methods and the finished masterpiece. That gap is not an invitation to fantasy, but a space for legitimate wonder and continued inquiry. It asks us to remain open to the possibility that some cultures may have possessed a deeper, more intuitive mastery of materials, acoustics, astronomy, or physics than our traditional timelines allow. As we reflect on these silent sentinels of the past, let them stand not as accusations against our current understanding, but as monuments to human ingenuity's boundless and often mysterious potential. They remind us that history is not a closed book, but a living conversation with the past, where every perfect joint and every multi-ton block is a word in a language we are still learning to read. What do you think these stones are trying to tell us? Share your most compelling theories in the comments below, and if you crave more journeys into the heart of history's greatest puzzles, subscribe and join us for the next exploration.